It is year 3 coming up for Coach Hugh Freeze, and can this Auburn offense finally get in gear? Let's talk about it.
Weekend Tailgate brought to you by Midweek Rapport brought to you by our friends at the Opelika Rage Room and the Birmingham Rage Room. If you're in the Auburn, Opelika area, or if you're in the Birmingham area, you can visit them in Opelika at 1510 2nd Avenue. Or if you're in Birmingham, 2616 7th Avenue South. I got some rage in me these days, and I'm headed over to the Rage Room this weekend to get some of that rage out. You should too. Guys, do us a favor. Join as a member. We have been on the road. I've been in a car with Ike Jones for many, many hours the last month covering Auburn sports for you guys. We're not done. It's a few months away, but we will be at Media Days. It's in Atlanta this year. We're excited about that. You should be too. Lots of great content coming out of Media Days. $5.99 a month. Help keep the War Report on the road. Also, give the gift of the War Report by hitting that gifted membership button. See if we can give 30 memberships given away today. Can we get 6 people to give away 5 memberships apiece? I think we can. We love our community. Help us grow the Green Name Gang by hitting that gifted membership button. Check your emails, guys. You could be on the receiving end of one of these and not know if you don't check your email. So check it. You might have a free membership sitting in there right now that was given away but never claimed. Also, this show is brought to you by our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com and use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in the life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. We appreciate them for sponsoring our segment. Our guy Richard over there helping you guys out and put a little special note in there from everybody who uses that code REPORT. Also, our friends at the Vibe Vault, if you are in the Columbus, Phoenix City area and you're looking to get cleaned up, getting that beard trimmed or that fresh cut for the weekend, the Vibe Vault has you covered. My guy Steve Watkins over there, not just a barber, but a lifestyle consultant. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Suite I, Phoenix City, Alabama. That's on Highway 431. Right across the street from Chattahoochee Valley Community College and right next to the Marco's Pizza and the Renfros out there. The Vibe Vault helping keeping the community fresh. Look, guys, we've got some fresh merch. It's all over the place. Are you born to bug? I'm born to bug. And Ike is serving up new fresh gear for you guys, avoiding the trademark police, but still giving you Auburn gear. Get that gear now at thewarreport.com. Click on the merch section and get in on this, man. We love having you guys walk around in new gear, Auburn eccentric, and we're helping you do that. So help us out. Visit our merch store. Also, check us out on podcasts. Every single podcast platform, the War Report is there, bringing you lots of great audio-only content. The Auburn Express, Uptempo, College Loop, and Just a Sec pods there for you, whether you're on your way to work, school, the gym, or dropping the kids off at school. We got you covered with great audio-only content. The War Report Podcast Network.
Yes, indeed. And we are here back in that football mode, in football mode, talking Auburn football, and we want to talk about the Auburn offense. Coach Hugh Freeze, the offensive coach, the guy who was going to resurrect Auburn's offense and make it great again, if I could use that phrase. Hadn't been that way. 2 seasons of Coach Freeze, the offense has not been stellar. It improved year over year, but still has not been a stellar offensive performance for Auburn. So what we want to do today is we want to look at a few statistics, and we are going to take an over-under approach to this. So we're going to look at a couple of different offensive statistics, and we want to know from you all in the chat. We're going to give our thoughts, of course. Is Auburn going to be over the number or under the number? Mike G, let's get into it and talk about some stats here for Auburn's offense.
Yeah, let's start with passing yards. Peyton Thorne, famously 1,700 yards passing in year one, Ike, of the Hugh Freeze era. That number
Putrid.
jumped 1,000 yards to 2,713 yards in year two. That's with no bowl game, by the way, and missing a start. So not the 3,000-yard performance we hoped for, but I think we can say if he never missed that game and a half, probably could have got those extra 300 yards, Ike.
Yeah.
Over,
Yeah.
over under 2,500 yards for Jackson Arnold is Auburn's starter.
Man,
2025.
this better be over. I'm not like a 2,500-yard passing season. Is that's not even. I mean, I would consider that below average in today's college football. Man, you've got to be able to get over 2,500 yards and an offense with this many weapons, right? We talked about this last season, and this was my thing when everybody started looking at Cam Coleman coming in and, oh, he's going to have 1,000 yards and this person's going, 700 yards, blah, blah. I was like, where are all these targets coming from? Like, how do you feel like all of these guys are going to get all of these numbers? You're predicting Peyton Thorne's going to throw for 3,500 yards if they do all of this stuff. Cam Coleman needs to eat this year. This needs to be the freaking season that somebody breaks 1,000 yards as a receiver for Auburn. So if one guy's going to have 1,000, I need to have a second guy around 700 or 800. You're already at 1,800 with two targets, right? Give me 1,000 combined for the remainder of the room out there with all of these passing targets available. He eclipses 2,500. Yes, absolutely needs to be over 2,500 yards this season, does Jackson Arnold.
I'm going over with the caveat that he gets a minimum of 350 pass attempts.
And he needs to with all these receivers. Yes.
Right. Hugh Freeze quarterbacks generally have about 400 pass attempts a season. And if Auburn can't get close to that, which I can't imagine that they don't this year. We talked about this on previous segments, but they've taken a stack the deck around the quarterback approach to roster management.
Right.
I'm going to give you every receiver you could possibly want. We're going to put running backs in there. We're going to try to beef up this O-line that's been neglected for a decade. And we're going to watch you eat.
Yeah.
Because, Ike, it's much easier to find game breakers at the skill positions than it is to find one game-breaking quarterback.
Right.
You can find gems at wide receiver and tight end and even O-line and running back. But finding a gem at QB it's not impossible, but it is much, much harder.
Right.
So I think that Jackson Arnold is being very unfairly criticized for what happened at Oklahoma and that putrid offense that they ran all year. Now, they beat Auburn, sure. But, I mean, we probably had a worse situation in some ways than Oklahoma last year. They came in here and got the win. Don't see it happening this year. My guy Josh Mahler over at the Sooner Spotlight tweeted at me, Oklahoma fans are going to be really excited to hear you projecting over 2,500 yards for Jackson Arnold. And I'm like, look, he's got much better receivers.
Yeah, they were on like their fifth string receiver as the wide receiver one or something like that over there. It was crazy.
Exactly. Auburn might have the best wide receiver room in the conference this year. I
haven't looked at the other receiver rooms in the conference, but I'm confident in the level of talent that Auburn is trotting out there that they're definitely going to be competing for that. Yeah.
After watching Perry Thompson on Saturday, knowing that Eric Singleton is in the fold, watching Horatio Fields, right, knowing what Cam Coleman could do, seeing what Malcolm Simmons did last year, knowing Bryce Cain is sitting in their fold, there are an embarrassment of riches in that wide receiver room. And Jackson Arnold loves his receiver room so much, he said, Manning passing a camp, I'm going to go throw to my receivers.
Yeah,
I am so excited to work with these guys. The hell with a Manning passing camp. I'm going to stay home on the plains and throw to these guys and develop some chemistry for the upcoming season. I think that shows great maturity and leadership, Ike. And I think he's excited. I think it shows that he's excited about the guys that he has to throw to. Those guys have been making plays all spring. They've been making plays since they've been on the plains. It's going to continue this year. Over 2,500 yards for Jackson Arnold this year should be a gimme. The only way it doesn't happen is if something goes terribly wrong. But you don't stack this wide receiver room to not throw the ball.
Yes.
You just don't.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that it's going to have to be an injury-filled season to change my mind about this, because there's just no reason seeing the progress year over year for Peyton Thorne in this offense when he had a little bit more time to figure out what was going on, a little bit more chemistry, getting more opportunities. I think Coach Freeze is committed to giving Jackson Arnold more opportunities this year than even Peyton Thorne got last year to go out there and throw the ball around. And, we'll get to this. Keeping possessions going by not turning the ball over a billion times absolutely helps you to be able to have more pass attempts on the season, more passing yards on the season. Staying on the field and converting third downs will absolutely help you to be able to do that. And Auburn doesn't really have a reason why they cannot be a prolific offense this year through the air, if nothing else, because, again, embarrassment, I will use your word, of riches in the wide receiver room that puts you in a position where Jackson Arnold should be able to just sit back there and say, all right, well, somebody's open down there. Let me just get rid of football.
Just get it to them. Yeah, I'm excited about seeing what they can do offensively, particularly through the air. Auburn has generally had success when the ground game has been heavily featured. But this is a new day and age in college football. And, the passing game has never been more important than it is right now. You got to be able to make plays at the end of the games. And a lot of times that's through the air, Ike. When Auburn has needed a big play through the air, Auburn fans have collectively sighed in fourth quarters, not believing that they can push the ball down the field and get the plays that they need to win the games.
Yeah, that was definitely me. I just no faith whatsoever in the ability of this team the last 5 years, really, to mount comebacks, just because I didn't feel like the offense could block. The offensive line couldn't block it up well enough, and I didn't think that the quarterback was going to be able to make the plays. So looking forward to having a season where that is not the case. No, passing yards is great, and I'd love to see them have a bunch of passing yards. But what's better than passing yards is passing touchdowns.
Indeed, my friend. Passing touchdowns. So last year, Peyton Thorne threw 21 passing touchdowns. Look, this is going to sound like a really weird stat, but it's actually rare for an Auburn quarterback to have over 20 passing touchdowns in a season. Yes. He did that last year. And there were only 27 touchdowns thrown by the quarterback room. The other 6 were by Hank Brown in the time that he got. But over under 25 touchdowns for the quarterback in 2025. I'll go first on this one. Well, I would love to see 30 passing touchdowns from Auburn starter. I have to go over. I think the receivers are going to be the difference in the red zone. Those fades, you got guys who can go up and get it. And we saw some of that on display at A-Day. Perry Thompson had one of those catches diving for a touchdown in the corner of the end zone. The receivers seem to have great field awareness this year. Some of those catches on the sideline would have been NFL catches. I'm talking about double toe tap type stuff that we're seeing. And, this is more of a vote of confidence for the wide receiver room than it is for the quarterback. But that's the way they've designed the team, as we mentioned previously.
Yeah.
Stack the deck, get guys who will go out there and run the routes crisp and be there for the quarterback and bail them out. This is what Hugh Freeze believes, by the way. He said it. You need pass catchers with catch radius to win in this league.
Yeah.
And he has not stopped reminding people of that. I think it pays off this year, and you see a prolific amount of touchdowns thrown. I think in Cam's Heisman season, what did he have? He had 30 passing touchdowns.
I don't remember that.
No, it was 20. He had over 50 touchdowns, but it wasn't. I don't think he had over 30. I think it was 20 touchdowns passing to 30 rushing or something like that. Yeah, but look, at the end of the day, I think that whoever Auburn's quarterback is has a chance to break records for passing touchdowns. Now, we're not talking about prolific numbers here because, again, even in the better years, it hasn't been like 40 passing touchdowns or anything crazy. I think when Joe Burrow won the Heisman, he threw like 60 touchdowns or something crazy like that. Auburn doesn't have those kind of numbers on the record books.
Right.
Over 25 in today's college football is not even gaudy numbers, but it would get the job done for Auburn.
For sure. Yeah. I'm going to go over with this as well because of the thing that you pointed out. Peyton Thorne had 21 last year, 27 as a team. I think Peyton Thorne would have thrown another 4 or 5 touchdowns had he started the game that he did not start, right? And so I think he would have gotten the opportunity to do that. Plus, with the start versus Arkansas, I think he'd have gotten over 25 last year. And because I'm expecting the passing yardage to increase, and I do expect a little bit of a dip overall in the rushing productivity this season, I expect, this Auburn offense, people forget how explosive this offense had been and had the capability of being, where they were scoring. Now, red zone offense was awful. And if they can get better in the red zone, particularly throwing the ball to these big receivers that you've already mentioned, then 25 should be academic. But I do expect there to be a continuation of the explosive nature of this offense. 25 passing touchdowns should not be a difficult mark for Jackson Arnold if he's starting every single game the way Peyton Thorne was not able to last year. Him getting 21 minus a game gives me supreme confidence that you can get over 25 this year from Jackson Arnold.
Correct.
Give me the over in this one.
All right. I like it. What we got next?
Well, let's go to the other side of that coin, because this was the bugaboo for Auburn last year. Yeah, they could score a little bit, right? And I looked at some of the numbers. Auburn was ranked in passing yards total. They were 28th in the country at 263.9 per game, 26th in passing touchdowns in the country at 27 total touchdowns through the air. But they were also ranked unbelievably high in the number of turnovers that they had on the season. Particularly because of the number of interceptions. So let's talk about this turnover number.
So for turnovers, right, like you had 9 interceptions by Peyton Thorne.
Oh, by Peyton Thorne, yeah.
Yes, 13 for the room. Auburn had 22 total turnovers, so 9 lost fumbles with that, right? And you've got to get that number down, I think, this year. So the question is over under 20 total turnovers for Auburn in 2025.
This is tough. This one's tough for me because
it's hard.
I just think that they're going to throw some interceptions. If we're expecting 30 potential touchdowns, then I'm expecting probably about 15 interceptions. And that means that you can only lose less than 5 fumbles on the season. I'm going to have to say over on the turnover number there, unfortunately. I think that Auburn's going to have more than 15 turnovers this season. Just the nature of throwing the ball more is going to be in that place. Jackson Arnold did have some issues with fumbling the ball himself last season there at Oklahoma with the pressure that he was under consistently from that porous offensive line. Hopefully he can cure some of that. And the unfortunate reality is the leading running back for Auburn this year, Damari Alston, has had an issue with fumbling the football. So, hopefully, he can get better at that as the season progresses, but I don't expect him to have 0. And so because you're going to have maybe some young wide receivers in there as well that may fumble a pass or something like that, whatever. I'm going to go over on this one. Reluctantly, I'm going to have to say over 15.
What do you, before I give my number, how much over do you think though?
I'm hoping not more than like 22.
Not more than 22?
Yeah. Not more than 22, I think would be that's a terrible number, by the way. Like, I'm not saying that this is a good thing, but and then just for context, right? Let me look at this because I didn't pull this number.
That's almost 2 turnovers a game.
Yes. Yes, it is. Turnovers lost last year. The team that had the most in the NCAA last year had 30 in East Carolina. God, that's a gaudy number. What was the over under number you gave me? 15?
Yeah. Well, I said 20, but it was supposed to be 15.
Um yeah, I mean, so I'll go over 15, not over 20, because God, if they get up to 22, man, I think I'll probably be Rogue Shop will need to just like make a make a whole room that I can
uh,
just
I,
lay
I
in.
will I will say this. Jackson Arnold has only thrown 6 interceptions in his entire career.
So that's there's a reality to the fact that he is very risk averse. Like
Yes,
he will take a sack before he throws a pick
the
more
ball.
than likely. Yes. That's a
So
true statement. Yes.
right, and he only threw 3 of those last year.
Yeah.
So I guess
Yeah, you got me rethinking that too. I have to think
yeah,
about the nature of who Jackson Arnold is as a passer and how much he will just say, "Nah, I'm not throwing that."
yeah. So when you're looking at it again, last year, Jackson Arnold 12 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. Right, that's on
It's a
246 pass attempts.
it's a
So
4-to-1 ratio.
right. So if he gets another 100 pass attempts, that's potentially 4.5 to 5 interceptions at that rate per 100, attempts. Uh, so this number really comes down to me about whether or not Auburn's going to fumble the ball a bunch.
Right.
Now,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't take into account Jackson Arnold and who he is as a person. I'm gonna have to change my answer to under because
under, okay,
like I said, I think that even if he does get sacked a bunch, I mean, God, he's not gonna have 10 fumbles, is he? Right, like, and then 5 from the remainder of the team. So, yeah, I'll change to under because he is pretty much like I don't like that. Let me just take off running kind of guy more than just I'm gonna force this pass in here type of guy. So yeah,
mm.
yeah,
Before I give my answer, reminder to our listeners: if you're listening to this on replay on YouTube, hit the comment section. Give us your over unders on this. I'm gonna go under.
yeah,
This sounds like a real sunshine and pumpy segment, but I promise you, this is backed by stats. Like you said, he's risk averse,
yeah.
and the receivers are that good. I believe that they'll go up and they'll fight for those balls, those 50-50 balls that got interceptions. Peyton had a few like um
Tip
tip
passes
pass
situation. Yeah,
interceptions as well too, where they were good throws.
yeah.
They just didn't catch them. Hell, Cam and Malcolm had a couple of those
Yep.
that were intercepted where they were good passes and they ended up intercepted. I just think with these guys being a year more mature, a year more skilled, a year better at their craft, and with the guy that you have coming in, that number is going to be in the single digits.
Hmm.
And will Auburn have 5 to 8 lost fumbles? And it does come down to Damari. I love Damari Austin. I think he's a dog. He can run the ball. He's got speed. He's got power, but he has had fumble problems.
Yeah.
He solves that. I like the under here. And because I just don't think enough of those, right, are going to come from interceptions.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't see it. We talked about Peyton's numbers, right? And again, 21 touchdowns to 9 interceptions for Peyton Thorne. Hank Brown had 3 of those all in like one half. Of the 13 interceptions, and Jarquez Hunter had an interception last year, so I don't even really count that one.
Yeah.
So really 12 interceptions by quarterbacks last year. I don't see it getting worse than that, Ike.
Yeah, I mean, listen, even with throwing the ball more often, to your point, again, I have to take into account, which I did not when I started answering this question, who Jackson Arnold is as a passer. And, even though it's not the greatest trait in the world for him to be a one read and take off guy, the reason he does that is because he's like, all right, well, I'm not going to throw this late though. Like I'll scramble around a little bit and try to make something happen as a playmaker. But if anything, I'm throwing this away or I'm taking off running, but I'm not, I'm not going to the middle of the field late and trying to make some kind of dumb pass. And more often than not, he's going to be risk averse rather than just kind of that gunslinger mentality of, oh, I can make it work. Even though he has the arm to do it, he still is a little bit more risk averse. So yeah, I'll have to change my number to the under based on that stuff. All right. Next up here, we'll do one more before we get to the break. And that is, we might be able to get both of these in. Rushing. We got to talk about rushing yards for this group here.
Yeah, rushing numbers for the Auburn Tigers, 1,986 total rushing yards for this group last year. Now, I want to talk about running backs specifically, Ike. So the Peyton Thorne had 283 rushing yards against 112 attempts. If you extrapolate his numbers, you had 1,700 rushing yards by everybody else. There are a few rushing yards here I didn't extract, like Hank Brown had 10 and Walker White had 18, but whatever. So you had about 1,700 rushing yards by the running backs, and a few on some wide receiver sweeps. Malcolm Simmons 13, whatever. That number for me has to go up. Now, Jarquez Hunter ran for 1,201 yards last year. That's with no bowl game. So, just in the flat 12 games that he played, 1,200, which means Damari Alston has to make a significant jump from his 276 yards, almost 1,000 yards to catch up there. Now, Jeremiah Cobb is presumably RB2. The young man, Alvin Henderson, the freshman, looks good. How many yards do we expect him to have? If he's in Cobb's role, Cobb had 142 yards rushing last year. Everybody's got to make significant jumps. This comes down to, is Damari Alston a 1,000-yard rusher, right? So the number here is 2,000, over under 2,000 yards rushing for Auburn running backs, because 1,700 for me, is fairly low, despite the year that Jarquez Hunter had. And if you want to throw the Thorne's numbers in, 1,900, but I would like to see over 2,000 yards by the running backs this coming season. Over under 2,000 yards rushing by Auburn running backs.
Yeah, I'm going to go under on this.
Okay.
I think that this is going to be a team that's led by the passing attack more so than anything else. And I don't know that there's going to be enough attempts out there for the running backs to be able to get to 2,000 total. I have a hard time believing that Auburn runs the ball more this season without Jarquez Hunter. I have a hard time believing that. Like, even if you're on the field more often, I think the running backs are going to be more short yardage guys, and they are going to be like, we're going to lean on you in this entire possession and just kind of march the ball down the field type of thing. I think it's going to be a passing offense. So I'm going to go under for the running back total of 2,000 this year. Interesting.
Okay. 187 rush attempts for Jarquez Hunter last year. I want to put that in reference before I answer for everybody here. 187 attempts was fourth in the SEC. Ahead of him was Diego Pavia with 193 rush attempts. So quarterback was third. Quintravion Wisner for Texas, 226 attempts. Dylan Sampson was the leading rusher in the SEC with it looks like just over 70 more attempts than Jarquez Hunter, 1,491 yards. Again, 258 attempts for Dylan Sampson. Behind Jarquez, you had Raheem Sanders with 183. Jalen Milroe had 168 rush attempts. Lenora Sellers had 166 rush attempps. And then Cedric Alexander had 164. Rounding out the top 10, Nate Noel with 163 rush attempts, and Taylon Green with 156 rush attempts. How much trust do they have in Damari Alston and Jeremiah Cobb to pick up that 187 and go north of that, right? Like, is an interesting a thing for me here. So go.
If we look 187, the top two rushers, right? 187 for Jarquez Hunter, 52 last year for Damari Austin.
Mhm.
So what is that? 230, like 200, let's just say 240 total carries.
Yep.
Can Cobb, what you're asking is, will the combined number of carries between Damari Austin and Cobb be over 250 carries this season? And what can they average per carry is really what this amounts to.
Yeah, yeah. Because remember, Jarquez was averaging a really good number.
6.4 yards per carry last year.
Yeah, that was tops in the conference, I believe. So
Now,
you're gonna have
Damari averaged 5.3, which is still a good amount per carry.
it is,
But
it
but
is.
still.
I I have supreme confidence in Damari Austin making the jump this year. I think he has a chance to surprise some people as one of the top backs in the league. The tools are there, right? He's got to stay on the field by not turning the ball over. But if he can instill confidence in those first few games, Baylor, and then you got two cupcakes, right? Before you get to SEC play, I think he has a chance to really boost that number in the first three games. Then you hit SEC play, and we'll see the numbers slow down a little bit once you get into conference play. But man, if he can break off some big numbers in the first couple of games, I see it. I'm gonna go again. I got a lot of boogie in me this year. I'm gonna go north of 2,000 yards for the running backs. I think they can fill that gap and then some, but it's gonna be about Damari. He flops, they got no chance. If he,
Unless somebody else is a revelation in that room where it's just like, oh my God,
it's gonna be a huge jump. Yeah, something nobody can predict coming, essentially.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I'm going north of the 2,000. I think that this is the year. This is the prove it year for Hugh Freeze,
for sure.
And I think as a result, the confidence that he showed after A-Day has me extremely confident because he's not shown that confidence before. So this isn't like you guys say this every year. No, the head ball coach at Auburn has not been super confident after his last two spring games.
Yeah.
He said some positive things about some guys, but he's not come out one time in 3 years until this year and said, I think we're going to be really competitive. He said that this year. I think that he sees this stuff and he's thinking we have a chance to be really, really good. So I'm going with the over here. I'm going to echo the head ball coach's confidence and say over 2,000 yards for the running backs.
Listen, if we get those kind of output numbers from this offense where you're, north of the number for the passing yards was 2,500 and then north of 2,000 for the rushing offense, that's a fairly, it's an extremely balanced offense. But you're talking about 4,500 yards of total offense with how good this defense is, then golly, man, if you don't get to daggone 8 wins with that kind of output, then doing something wrong. But a portion of that is not just moving the football, but scoring touchdowns. And how many rushing touchdowns? We'll hit this really quickly, then we'll get into you all's comments. How many rushing touchdowns can this Auburn team produce this year?
This is an interesting number here. Again, rushing touchdowns on the season, only 13 total for the team in 2024. This might be the most disappointing number, I think, of all the numbers that we've talked about so far. 13 rushing touchdowns is anemic. 8 for Jarquez Hunter, right? 5 by everybody else. Peyton Thorne had 2. Damari had 3. That's it. Nobody else scored a rushing touchdown last year. That number absolutely has to go up. What was the over under we set here on touchdowns? I went back and forth over this about whether or not Auburn would be over under. I think the number we were looking at was like 15.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this has to be up in the 20s if you ask me. I think 13 rushing touchdowns was an anomaly.
Meaning like a low anomaly, like it should have been higher than that.
It should have been much higher. It should have been much higher than that. And it's hard to understand how, as a team, Auburn ended up at that number. But, red zone offense was just not good.
Yeah, it's terrible.
So to answer my own question, that's how you end up at that number, right? Like red zone offense just wasn't good. And so when you look at the SEC and, what teams did there on the ground in conference, right? Auburn's 13 rushing touchdowns was the second worst mark in the league.
Terrible.
The only team that rushed for less rushing touchdowns, it was Kentucky. At 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alabama scored 41 rushing touchdowns last year. Arkansas had 34. Tennessee had 34 with the leading rusher in the conference. Ole Miss had 29. Texas A&M 27. Florida 26. Missouri 26. Texas 26. South Carolina 26. Georgia 26. Everybody who had less than 20 touchdowns had a terrible season. Had an awful season. I'm going over on this number because 13 is rock bottom. Even without Jarquez Hunter, I have to believe that Auburn will accidentally get more than 13 rushing touchdowns in 2025. And that's just to me. Now, that's not even a bug. That's just, I think 13 is a statistical anomaly.
So more than 13, I can agree with you, but are they going to get up to 20 plus is the question here.
Yes. Yeah, I got to go over. I mean, because even at 20, you're just middle of the pack in the SEC.
Right.
That's a middle of the pack number. All the teams that had 20 rushing touchdowns, I mean, start with Georgia, who their offense clearly took a step back last year. South Carolina, 26. Texas, 26, playoff team. Missouri, 26. They were thought to be a playoff team. They flopped because they're Missouri, and that's what they do. Florida, hardest schedule ever, 26 rushing touchdowns. Texas A&M, brand new coach, 27. Ole Miss, another flop. They continuously flop, 29 touchdowns, right? Tennessee made the playoff, 34 touchdowns. Alabama missed it, still 41 touchdowns. Come on, man. You got to go north of 20 here. If they don't, I'll be really, really disappointed.
Yeah. I am actually going to join you and take the over in this one, not because I'm just supremely confident in how much better the offense is going to be overall. I just think that because of the threat that this passing offense is going to pose, I think you're going to see lighter boxes. And I do think that they're going to get better in the red zone this year, being able to run the football. And so you're going to get some of those, like there is no Sam Jackson to go in there and do stupid wildcat on the 1 yard line situations.
Right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so it's not a thing this year. That doesn't exist. And so I think that they're just going to, between what you have in the legs of Jackson Arnold and the litany of rushing guys that you can throw out there to run the football within the red zone, I think that they'll be able to get more than 20 rushing touchdowns this season. I expect a much better scoring offense for Auburn this year than last year, for sure. So give me the over on that.
I got Charles Barkley over my shoulder here, my right shoulder here, to let you know that Sam Jackson shit was terrible. It was awful. I hated it. I hated it so much. They kept doing it. It flopped every time. It never worked.
Yeah, it didn't.
It never worked.
Not a single time did it ever work. It was not good.
It just kept doing it. I took a lot of heat last year for what people perceived as Sam Jackson hate. It wasn't hate. It was just my honest assessment of the young man. I didn't think he was a terrible football player. I just thought we had better receivers on the team. He made plays at times. Certainly, I think his athleticism was clear. But look, man, at the end of the day, they got to go north on this number. Big time. Yeah. They have to. It has to happen. And
I think, the wild thing about this is we're just talking about competency. We're not talking about excellence in offense when you get to 20 rushing touchdowns. We're not talking about excellent when you talk about 25 passing touchdowns. You're talking about competence. You're talking about an offense that looks like teams actually have to game plan or you might lose to the offense. Not, if we can just score 21 points, we'll beat them type of thing. Like, so it feels like a book to say, oh, we're going to do better. But like, we're just asking the team to be around the average of what everybody else does.
Average.
Just be okay. Just be decent at all of these things. Put up a couple of points, right? Here and there. Don't only score against, FCS opponents, and when you get to bigger games, actually put points up on the board. That's not a crazy thing to ask of your offense.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
So
No.
though it feels like a book to say over and over and over and over, it's like, come on, man, like just be decent, and we'll have a decent season offensively.
It's why we're trying to give you guys statistical reference points for where other teams were at, what's normal, what they did in prior years, how bad were those prior years, so that you understand that it's just not us picking over all the time. It's Auburn was legitimately terrible in some offensive categories. And the red zone, when you start talking about touchdowns, it comes down to a lot of times to red zone efficiency.
Right.
And it felt like if they didn't score outside the 30, they weren't going to score at times. And so you can't be there.
Because the kicking was so bad.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't even rely on your kicker once you got close. I mean,
I forgot about that. I forgot about that as well too.
Auburn in red zone efficiency last year, just for everybody, 108th in the country, at 78% in the red zone. It's just not good, man. It's just not good.
Not good.
So, yeah, got to get better. And for context, that's out of 133 teams. So 108 out of 133 is
terrible.
Gotta be better than that. So,
yeah.
All right. So we want to get into you all's comments, see what you all are saying about some of this stuff. Make sure you drop the comments over on some of these statistics. We'll get over there into that. You all are watching the Midweek Rapport. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you share the content with somebody. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we will be right back after a quick word from the sponsors. This edition of the War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. The Opelika Rage Room in Opelika, Alabama. The Rage Room is a place where anger and stress find their ultimate release. Call or text 334-777-6688 to set up a session today, or check them out online at opelikaRageroom.com. Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com.
Want to thank our title sponsor, the Opelika Rage Room, also the Birmingham Rage Room. If you're in the Opelika area, 1510 2nd Ave, Opelika, Alabama. If you're in Birmingham, 2616 7th Ave South. They throw axes up in Birmingham, a special kind of rage release. The Birmingham Rage Room, Opelika Rage Room, both great sponsors of the War Report. We appreciate them for consistently sponsoring this segment. Guys, join up, hit that join button, $5.99 a month. We are on the road for you guys all off season. We don't stop. Maybe cover a little baseball here this football off season. Baseball is doing fantastic, Ike. So Auburn is primed to host a regional right now as a top 10 team in the country, working their way toward that top 5. But you want to get in on the action by hitting that join button. We had 10 memberships given away in the first half. 20 more to go, guys. Help us out. Let's grow the Green Ain't Grind by hitting that gifted membership button. We appreciate you guys for doing that. The Rogue Shop. This segment is brought to you by our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off that Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, bammers, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something to cure your ails. We appreciate them. Longtime sponsors. Also, our friends at the Vibe Vault. Our guy Steve Watkins over there, not just a barber, but a lifestyle consultant. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Sweet Eye, Phoenix City, Alabama. That's on Highway 431, right across the street from Chattahoochee Valley Community College, next to the Marco's Pizza and the Renfro's grocery store there. So if you don't mind making the drive down from Auburn, Opelika to Phoenix City, great place to get a haircut. That's where I get. If you notice the line looking crispy fresh today, that's my guy Steve over there. I appreciate him. Visit our merch store, guys. We got some new stuff in there. We want you guys to stay fresh in another way with some fresh threads. All the boog you need on a t-shirt or a hat or a zip up or a hoodie. This is amazing stuff. Ike designs all of this. I know that he enjoys this work a whole lot. You can help support our channel by going here and just buying something, whether it's for you or a gift for somebody else. Been seeing you guys around town in our gear. We appreciate that. Also, check us out on podcasts. This is another great way to support us. Every single podcast platform, we are there. Auburn Express up-tempo college loop and Just a Sec pods, whether you're on your way to school, work, the gym, dropping the kids off to school, wherever you're headed. Lots of great audio-only content so you can enjoy the War Report in any form.
Yes, indeed. And we appreciate those of you who are supporting us, like Fire Freeze, who says he wants 10 more people to enjoy the paywall content that we have going on.
Appreciate that.
If you guys don't know, I am in the midst of my off-season film stuff. So looking at stuff from last year's guys, looking at new folks that come over from the transfer portal. I am in film mode. So we will be getting to that. Behind the paywall is where you can find all of that stuff. Make sure that you tap in. I'll even get into some basketball stuff for some of the transfers that we have, which is what we're going to be talking about here in just a moment. So when we get into basketball film, I'll be doing that stuff this summer. So make sure you get that Green Name Gang activation going. And Fire Freeze just let 10 more of you guys in there for that. Appreciate you so much for supporting in that way. Super chat here from NH3425, who says, I follow Auburn since 92. The last 5 years have been painful for Auburn. Auburn has to produce wins this year. No excuse. Translate the hype to wins. War damn Eagle.
Yeah, I gotta agree with this. Look, man, it's time to win. Got to get it done. You've been given every resource. Hugh Freeze, you've been given every resource. I feel confident this year that this is the year it comes together. He's put a lot of emphasis on year 3 as the year that a lot of things come together, recruiting, wins, all those things. Now you just got to go out and do it. Last year, I thought that there were a lot of other issues other than personnel. And this year, you've got even less issues with personnel, in my opinion. So hopefully we see the manifestation of them fixing those issues.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's difficult to not have some level of hype going into a brand new season when you see all of the talent that's there.
Mm-hmm.
But to the point, at some point in time, that talent needs to be able to prove something on the field. And this needs to be the season for Coach Freeze. I am not of the mind that there has been floating around there that Coach Freeze is on some hot seat that if he, but like, if you get another 5-win season, bro, like, we got to start having a conversation. Like, what are we doing here? Because the team's just way too talented for that to be a thing. So the way in which they lost games last season was disheartening. Like, there were games where Auburn absolutely was controlling the game for the vast majority and just could not find a way to get it to the finish line. Or they just went out there and decided they didn't want the football and just gave it to the other team way too many times during the game. And so, you go to the Iron Bowl last year and you get that many turnovers from that defense. I don't even know how many times the defense took the ball away from Bama, and you don't even sniff a victory.
I think it was 4 turnovers, at least 4 turnovers.
Yeah, it's just silly, right? Like, we're not even competitive in a game where your defense gets 4 turnovers. Like, I don't understand that. And so definitely have to see a vast improvement, particularly again from the offense, to be able to be more competitive. And that's what we're looking at right now. Can this offense figure out a way to do it? Fire Freeze comes back with a super chat and says, will Jackson Arnold have more rush attempts than Damari Alston?
Interesting question there. Again, let's go back to the numbers. 187 carries for Jarquez Hunter, 112 rush attempts for Peyton Thorne. Look, I hope that Jackson Arnold does not have more than 100 rush attempts on the season, personally. But look, he had 140, a 54. I'm sorry, hold on. Let me make sure I get this right. Last year, Jackson Arnold had 150 rush attempts at Oklahoma. It's just too high, right? Like, and I mean, he ran for 400 yards, but I don't know that it was that effective that I want to see a ton of that, right? Like, averaging. I mean, that's 3 yards a carry. Give those to the running backs. We don't need 3 yards a carry on 150 carries from the quarterback. So, to answer his question, no. In no world should he have more rushing attempts than Damari Alston. None. 0.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with no. He should not. There's no good reason why he has more rush attempts than Damari Alston, unless Damari Alston is not the leading rusher on the team. right? Like your quarterback for this season does not need to be the leading
Leading
rusher
rusher.
for
Yeah.
your team.
Yeah.
So whether it's Damari Austin or somebody else, there needs to be a running back that leads in rushing. Or I just think that the offense is in a place where he's doing way too much scrambling, getting out of there for no reason.
Agreed.
Next one here. Let's see. Keep Aiden. This name makes me laugh. Keep Aiden in Tuscaloosa says, I think we can run wide receiver screens all day on people. I do think the wide receiver screen, listen, between what you have in Eric Singleton and Malcolm Simmons and freaking Bryce Kane, if he's going to get opportunities, and Perry Thompson, those are guys who I think can take a little quick screen and turn it into lightning.
Yeah.
So I would love to see a lot of wide receiver screens,
It
honestly,
was
this season.
it was the timing of the screens last year that I had a problem with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just felt like it just felt very obvious and they weren't fooling anybody. And I didn't like the timing of the screens, but I agree. I would like to see these guys, man, if you can get that ball out there quick, get it in their hands and accurately, by the way. Nothing derails a screen more than an inaccurately thrown ball. You throw it behind him, that split second that it takes to adjust can kill a screen.
Yeah.
How accurate can Jackson Arnold be on those throws is going to be a key to whether you can run wide receiver screens all day.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and they're just a natural part of this offense, right? It's just about leverage. And I think the one thing that I do, and I've talked about it a little bit, but not a lot, like about the Jackson Arnold acquisition is the fact that there was a similar offense that he ran in Oklahoma, right? So it's not like he's starting completely over. It's some terminology differences. There are some differences in the way that, they're going to line up and have plays called, but it's the same kind of principles that you're starting with the RPO. So because he is not starting from zero, they should be able to move a little bit more quickly with the things that they're having him pick up and do. And one of those things is figuring out, is this an opportune time to just throw this screen out here really quickly if we're going tempo? I expect to see Auburn go tempo a bunch this year. Like, I expect the pace to be blistering for this Auburn offense. They get a first down and they're going to be on the move. And I do think that screen game is going to be a big part of that. Stephen Neely jumps in and says over 20 turnovers, but we win the season turnover margin. So thinks that the defense is going to take away a bunch of them, but the offense will give it up 20 or more times.
Stephen, I hope you're wrong.
I don't about half of this.
Yeah, I don't want to see 20 turnovers. Oh my goodness. I think they win the turnover margin, sure, but 20 turnovers is going to make for a really, really rough season. And I'm standing on that, right? Like, they've got to protect the football. Auburn, until I feel confident that Auburn can push the ball down the field and, that playing from behind is something that they're capable of doing. Man, you just can't turn the ball over because you're putting a lot of pressure on the defense to go out and do. And they did a lot last year.
Yeah,
they did a lot last year for Auburn to only get to 5 wins. This year, that can't be the case. It just can't be the case. So, do your job, man. Hold on to the football. Make good reads. In that 8-8 game, we saw Deuce Knight show off an incredible arm, but also show us why he's not ready to be Auburn's starter. The throws that were intercepted were late, and you absolutely cannot do that in games on Saturdays. Yeah. You can't. Average teams would have picked off those balls that he had intercepted. Right? Mercer would pick those off. And you just can't do that. And that's what makes me feel good about Jackson Arnold is he played a whole season, 3 interceptions. He's not thrown more than 3 interceptions in any of his first 2 seasons.
He didn't play a lot either season. Let's be clear too. Like, he sat for a couple of games in both of those. Like, I don't think he started his freshman season till like the very end.
Yeah, but still, he had 246 pass attempts in last year, and that was as much as Peyton Thorne played.
Right. And I think, but again, I agree with you. He is a risk-averse quarterback, which is why his touchdown numbers aren't very high, right? Because he's not making a lot of risky throws. I just think the weapons had a lot. The offensive line, the weapons had a lot to do with what you saw from numbers from Jackson Arnold last year. Like, I think he would have had better numbers had he had better receivers, and he would have been able to throw for more yards, more touchdowns had he had a better offensive line. He should have better in both of those categories this year at Auburn. So you expect to see a fairly large increase because he's going to play more games, which means he should get more snaps, and he's having better quality talent around him. You should see those numbers go up. Now, again, that means his interceptions are going to go up as well, but the touchdowns, the yards, the attempts, all of that should increase also.
Agreed.
Going to try to run through these really quickly. Burton Beamingham says under the rushing over on passing yards. Miller says Darrell Robinson is going to eat too. Darrell Robinson, a name we haven't talked about very much. That was the guy from UConn who came in. He had an injury that he's been working through. I think he had off-season surgery or something like that. So hopefully he's going to be able to get back into playing form and ready to get out there and contribute this year.
We'll see.
Stephen Neely jumps back in, says Auburn's leading receiver will have more yards than the leading rusher.
Interesting.
I don't think that that's a stretch to say, right? Like, I don't know that we're going to see 1,000-yard rusher this year for Auburn. I think 900 something yards is around where I would expect it to be, but I do want to see 1,000-yard receiver this year.
Yeah, I think for this to be true, Ike, you're going to have a 1,000-yard receiver.
Yes.
Because if both are under, Auburn is having a terrible season offensively.
Correct.
So
unless there's a bunch of guys with like 700 or 800, right? Like you're gonna have like 4 or 5 guys, like they're spreading it around so much that nobody got to 1,000, but you have like a bunch of guys with like 700.
Yeah, you got 4 600-yard receivers, sure, right? Like, right. But it's more likely you're gonna have 1,000-yard rusher. History has shown us than a 1,000-yard receiver.
It is more likely. I agree with that. P-Pass, no more Luke Deal or Percy Lewis whiffing in the red zone.
This comment hurts my heart because I'm a big Luke Deal guy.
I am a huge Luke Deal
guy. Yeah, but my guy didn't catch a ton of passes here.
Yeah. I'm pretty bummed about Braden Joyner entering the Vortex. I think that's the portal that he is renamed. But yeah, Braden Joyner, for those that don't know, decided he was going to put his name into the transfer portal, which, listen, man, I don't blame him because, he's going into now his 3rd season at Auburn, and he was going to be a backup unless injury was going to happen. And but here's the thing.
But before you finish that thought, because we talked about this over on Locked On, like this was a money issue.
Okay, yeah.
This was a money issue. He asked for more money, and Auburn said no, as far as I understand. It wasn't a lot more money, but I think the young man was upset enough about it that he said, I'm going to hit the portal. But this was a money issue.
Okay, which, I mean, again, fair. But this is the cautionary tale of the transfer portal. This is what Nico is learning right now. The more that I hear about that Nico story, the more I think he just wanted to leverage his way out of Tennessee, not necessarily that he wanted. It's like, if I'm going to stay here, you guys got to pay me a lot more money because I'm not happy. But I think he could have just hit the portal and not done all this extra stuff to do that. Like, you didn't have to do that to get out of Tennessee. But the cautionary tale of the transfer portal when you are leaving, because it's a money issue, is going to always be 2 things. When you leave, especially during this portal period, you have to have something else lined up, or you could be sitting out there for a while because teams have already set a lot of their NIL budgets at this point in time. And there's not a lot of teams that are looking for plug and play starters at the P4 level right now. And so if they are a P4 team and they're still looking for a starter, then you may be able to get that money from them. But if they're looking for somebody for a depth piece, then you're likely right back in that same scenario, just at a different school.
Right.
Or sitting there not getting a school or having to drop down to a lower level that could never pay you that amount of money. Right. So like it's a tough situation to be in. And I think Braden Joyner is an excellent offensive lineman. Right. Don't get me wrong. This is nothing about his talent. I loved everything I saw about his tape when he was coming out of high school. And I loved, the tenacity that he brought when he got in the opportunities last year. Even though it wasn't perfect, I did like what he was bringing out there. I mean, he got to all freshman team or something like he was a guy who was out there contributing. But I wish him the best in whatever his next situation is going to be.
You need depth. You need depth on
Sure.
offensive line, and Auburn can't be one offensive lineman injury away from disaster next year.
Right.
You can't. I liked him. I thought he was a solid offensive lineman. This is the reality of the new college football, like you said, with NIL and the portal and the players having more autonomy over making these decisions. You can go to another Division I program. At this point, he would have to leave the conference. He cannot transfer to an SEC school.
Right.
So he would be leaving the conference if he's going to play next year. But certainly, I hope that he finds a home, because we talk a lot about where guys go. We don't talk about how many guys get lost in the portal once they enter. Hopefully, he's not lost once he enters. But, it was, man, when it comes down to it with the money, every time this conversation comes up, Ike, before we move on, these guys sometimes feel really, really disrespected when there's a money ask and it's not a big one, and the answer is no.
Right.
But
and it becomes even worse when you have guys that have not played a single snap making more money than you, right?
Yeah,
like
correct.
These freshmen coming in, and it's like, well, can I at least get how much this guy is getting? And it's like, nah, we don't have it.
This is how the pros work. And I want everybody to remember that the NFL, their answer to this problem was a new rookie wage scale.
Right.
Right. Remember, I think it was Sam Bradford that came out right before Cam, and he got $52 million guaranteed in his contract with the Rams. Was it? Cam's contract was 22 total, and they guaranteed the whole thing. But Sam Bradford got over double what Cam got guaranteed, and his total contract was worth like 70-something million. And the Cam took his team to a Super Bowl,
right?
15-1 regular season with nobody. Kelvin Benjamin got hurt before the season. Number one receiver got hurt before the season started. And the issue was they were saying that teams were wasting money on unproven rookies, and there was nothing left over for the vets in free agency. And college football is going to run into the same issue. You're going to blow all the money on these unproven freshmen coming in. And for the guys who are there, but maybe outperformed their contracts, so to speak, there's not going to be any money for them.
Right.
Right. And now that they're learning that you have to re-recruit your roster, this is why I think GMs are coming to college football, because somebody's got to say, we need to save money to make sure that we keep this guy on the roster and that guy on the roster. And we can't go blow $1 million on some quarterback that may or may not pan out.
Yeah.
Got to really like a guy to spend that kind of money and possibly cripple the rest of your team. So these are pro problems, like.
Yeah. Stephen Neely jumps in and says, remember Joyner lost his father just over a year ago. Maybe he feels the pressure to provide for his family. And so let me be clear. I'm not trying to paint Braden Joyner as some money hungry, selfish guy, right? Like making an ask for more money of what you feel like you deserve based upon what other people are being paid. That's not selfish. That's fair. Right. Yep. And being told no and feeling as if you've earned it, then you should make whatever steps you need to go out there and try to secure that. My only point in all of this was, if you didn't have a plan before, like this is like quitting your job and you don't know where your next paycheck is coming from. Correct. Right. So if the idea is I need to provide for my family, great. Do you have a way to provide for your family after you just quit your job? Because now you went from I'm barely not meeting it to not meeting it at all. And so that is the danger that you have there. And that's why I hope, whatever the reasoning is, he finds a home that's going to provide him a college football home that's going to provide him with the money necessary to be able to do the things he feels like he deserves and needs to do. A couple more here. 7 rushing touchdowns. 7 rushing touchdowns. Oof, that's a rough year, brother. I hope that's not the case, Miller. 26 passing touchdowns, 5 rushing touchdowns. That's a rough year as well. Over 25 passing touchdowns, says Stephen Neely there. All right. That's it for that portion of it. Before we get out of here, we're going to quickly talk about some basketball. because Auburn is now a basketball school as well. So we got to make sure we keep you guys updated on what's happening in the basketball realm. Probably not mentioned too much, but like just to recap, in the transfer portal so far, you've got the leading scorer in JUCO that was signed a while back, and that is Abdul Bashir, who made it official. He has gone from committed to officially signed now, so he is in the fold officially. You get Keyshawn Hall from UCF, who made it official. Now he is still in the NBA draft kind of situation. He's like, if he doesn't go pro, he's definitely coming to Auburn type of thing, just as Tahad Pettiford is. But very likely that he will be at Auburn next year. Auburn got the commitment and signed paperwork from Keyshawn Murphy, the Mississippi State transfer, power forward / center. And then just recently, I'm going to butcher his name, but Emeka
Oporo.
I don't have it. Oporo.
Yeah.
Is now an Auburn Tiger. He is a JUCO transfer, 7'1", if I'm not mistaken. Kid, is that what it's? Or 7'2"?
I think that's 7'2".
7'2", coming over and now a part of next year's team for Auburn. Mike G, thoughts on the newest additions to the Auburn basketball family?
Gotta love the Keyshawn Hall pickup. Obviously, we've talked about that already. 18.7 rebounds per game coming in when you're losing Janai Brome is awesome. The Oporum pickup, which was the one that got reported today, is a curious one. Comes from Butler Community College. And this is what this staff is good at, right? Talent identification, evaluation, and development. And they see something in this kid, and I think they've earned the benefit of the doubt, Ike. They want to go pick a guy up. I believe he's going to be good. I do.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I just believe he's going to be good. You got the double key situation. So you got the kid coming over from Mississippi State, right? And I like him too as well. I don't see a bad move here. It's just reload. And Auburn is a place where guys want to come play. Keyshawn Hall said, I want to be coached by the best in the business. That's Bruce Pearl. So, I cover UCF. I liked Keyshawn Hall. He was the victim of a lot of a lack of depth at UCF last year. Past the starting five, UCF was so competitive with they were 1 point away from beating Houston, national runner-up. They got in there, they almost beat Kansas twice. They had a really good squad. They just didn't have anybody else. Those good four guys were carrying the entire scoring load for them last year. He won't have to do that at Auburn. And I think you see him score more efficiently and play more free, knowing that he doesn't have to carry the scoring load the way that he did at times at UCF. Darius Johnson could pick it up sometimes, but, it was rough. When one of those two guys had a bad game offensively, UCF really, really struggled. It puts a lot of pressure on you as a leading scorer to feel like you got to do it rather than just trust your teammates. I think that's what was the strength of this Auburn team last year was you never knew who was going to be the guy because they would all just defer to the hot hand. Everybody seemed to know who that was, whether it was Chad Baker, or if it was Denver, or if it was Miles, or if it was Janai, or if it was Tahad. I think they've created the same type of situation with the kids that they picked up in the portal. So I love it. I love every move they made so far. Again, and if you don't know much about one of these guys, I think they've earned the benefit of the doubt. Last year, they were picked to be fifth in the conference, sixth in the conference.
Right.
Crazy that they haven't earned the benefit of the doubt. I don't care what you think they're losing. At this point, you trust the process. Give Bruce Pearl his credit. You voted him Coach of the Year.
I think the media is actually going to, and I talked about this a little bit in my conversation with Max Barr. I actually think the media is going to come into the season with a little bit of hype train on Auburn, especially if Tahad and Chad come back for this team. And then somehow Chaney returns as well. I think the hype train is going to be legitimate for Auburn. Auburn fans are the only ones who are just like, oh, this team's losing too much. They're going to be awful. And then fans of other teams are saying that kind of stuff. But I don't think that the media is going to agree with that going into this season because they're going to see exactly what you said, which is a team coached by Bruce Pearl that seems to find ways to get these diamonds in the rough and these gems, and they're going to be competitive in the league. Now, they're still not going to get the Kentucky benefit of the doubt. They're still not going to get the Tennessee benefit of the doubt. But they are, I think, going to come into the season with a little bit more hype than they did going into last year, particularly, again, if you get Tahad Pettiford and Chad Baker-Mazara back on this team.
Yeah, facts.
All right. That's it. That's all we got for you guys tonight. Great conversation about the offense. As Mike G already said, if you're watching this later, I definitely want to hear what you all think about these over/under numbers, because I think it's going to be this feels like this is a polarizing thing. I think some people are going to be heavy Boog, and I think some people are going to be very Daniel Denny, right? Like, I think you're going to have those two extremes out there. A little mix of Daniel and Robert in the comments afterwards. And then you're going to have your James Barnetts out there on the other side of this. So it's going to be the James Barnetts versus the Daniel Denny's in the comment section afterwards. I'm looking forward to seeing that. But before we get out of here, Mike G, tell them other ways they can support what we got going on.
You guys already know the deal. Hit that join button, $5.99 a month. Not a lot. Couple double cheeseburgers and get you there. Help support the work that we're doing. We are on the road all off season, bringing you guys coverage live from wherever Auburn is doing something awesome. Help us grow our green name gang by hitting that join button. Please join our community. We appreciate that. As always, we love our title sponsor, the Rage Room. If you're in the Opelika area or the Birmingham area, address is right there below for you guys to visit them. Get some rage out, have a little fun. Great place to do team building, or just hang out with the boys and smash some stuff. We love the Rage Room. Appreciate them for sponsoring this segment. Also, our friends at the Rogue Shop, rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off that Rogue Shop order. Thanks to them for being a longtime sponsor of the War Report, and our friends at the Vibe Vault, keeping the community fresh. So if you're in the Phoenix City, Columbus area, or if you don't mind making the drive down from Auburn, Opelika, they're there for you guys. Open really, really late, making sure that they can get you cut, get you cleaned up for the weekend, clean that beard, full service barbershop. We appreciate them for sponsoring this segment. Check out our merch store at thewarreport.com. Lots of great Boog threads there for you guys. Also, check us out on podcasts, every single podcast platform. We are there bringing you guys lots of great audio-only content.
Yes, indeed. Before you get out of here, share the content with somebody out there. Like this video. Give us that good thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You can follow us on social media, X and Instagram. We are at The War Report, TW Report on TikTok. More great content coming for you all later this week. We will dig in a little bit more into these transfer guys. I'm going to try to get some stuff up there for you all. Green Name Gang, be on the lookout. We'll get more film out there for you this week. All of those things coming up for you. But until the next time, and as always, War Eagle. Peace.
War Eagle.